Leveling up your stats and making money at the same time is kind of the best of both worlds, where you get to progress your account and save up for the things that you want to buy. So here are the most profitable ways to train every skill in Old School Runescape. They're all in alphabetical order, but attack, strength, defense, hit points, magic and range are all together under one bracket as combat. So starting out with agility, and it's rare the most profitable method only requires level 52, but that is all you need in this case to do the Wilderness Agility course. It also gives you some very good XP rates at around 60,000 per hour, and outside of the Wilderness, equivalent courses that give you that kind of XP require level 70 or level 80 in agility. However, this is one of the most dangerous places in the entire game. It's high level Wilderness, so most players can attack you no matter what your combat level is, and it's really far from a safe zone. The skeletons that roam around this course are here deliberately, and they constantly keep you in combat, which stops you from being able to log out if you see a PK. And it's also single plus combat. What that mechanic does is it allows any PK to come along and attack you even if you're already in combat with one of the skeletons. Essentially everything here is designed to give PKs the advantage, plus the rewards that you get after each lap progressively get better the longer you stay, incentivizing you to essentially have a lot of loot on you. So only after you've completed 61 laps will you then start getting the 2.7 million GP per hour that is possible in this location. So it completely depends on the type of player you are, whether this is a good spot for you. Those comfortable with PvP will find that they rarely die here. There are plenty of places to escape or freeze log out from anyone that attacks you, plus you get some unnoted food as a reward as you complete laps. And there aren't really as many PKs as you probably expect. You can go for quite a long time before seeing them. However, if you don't have much PvP experience, I'd probably recommend learning the Hallowed Sepulchre instead, which is the second best method and can make you up to 1.8 million GP per hour, because otherwise you're just going to constantly die here. Most of the best ways to make money from combat in Old School Runescape, such as raids, require all three sides of the combat triangle, so I have grouped melee, magic and range all together for this. Now, whilst it is technically possible to make the most money from completing all 12 waves of the Colosseum now, which can earn you 14.7 million GP per hour, there are very few players that can do that consistently without any mistakes and never die, as one mistake generally results in your death here. Instead, the best in my opinion is currently Nex, which is one of the easiest bosses to learn and kill in the game. There's a few dedicated worlds where up to 50 players will be killing the boss, and because of that she dies very quickly. You don't take much damage and it's quite easy to kill. That then allows you to slowly learn the mechanics and you make a lot of money even in a large group. The money you make then increases the smaller the team that you have, and the best money from here is when you've mastered the mechanics so much that you can finally duo here. When you start out in your groups, you can use almost any gear. I got this in a challenge with just black D-hide and a rune crossbow. But for a duo, you will need a Fang with very high melee stats, 94 magic for thralls, and high range stats as well with a twisted bow, and that currently costs 1.7 billion. However, don't let that put you off. Learning this boss and killing Nex in a mass will make you enough money to gear up for teams, and killing Nex in small teams will then make you enough money to kill her as a duo. It's not only a very good learning curve, it's good for gear progression too, making you 14.5 million GP per hour. Cooking has never been the most profitable skill, but there's a new method now with some unique requirements that's made cooking this item a little bit more profitable than usual. So for the item, you need to have completed 50 Hunter Rumours, which are just like Slayer tasks for Hunter. Now you can get these in the Hunter Guild in Varlamore, and only then when you've completed 50 are you able to cook Antelope, along with level 68 in cooking. That one simple requirement alone is really the only reason that this method is currently the best at 519,000 GP per hour, which is a small increase on many other cooking methods like pineapple pizzas and dark crabs, which are currently 360 and 370,000 each respectively. But whilst the best money is some like antelopes, I think the best overall method is still one-ticking karambwans because of how much experience you get from them. It's by far the best XP in the game, and you also make 400,000 GP per hour. And I'll put a link to a video with a guide in it on how you do this down in the description. For construction, the only way I know of to make money is creating high-level flat-pack furniture at a workbench. Now some low-level players without the construction level will then buy it on the G, and then they can put it in their own home, even if they don't have the level to build it normally. And whilst this can make you a lot of money, the items take a very long time to sell on the GE. Did a video on this a while back, and whilst it made me 30 million GP after a 15 million investment, which is absolutely amazing, it did take me over a year to sell the items. Crafting is probably the first skill that we've come to which has a bit of a dilemma. You can make a lot of money with it, but the XP rates are absolutely terrible, or you can choose to get more XP for less money per hour. So I'll put together two that I think are worth considering. The most profitable method in the skill is making clockwork toys on a workbench in a player-owned house, and that only requires one normal plank as well as one clockwork. Now which clockwork is the most can vary, but usually it's the cat just because it has the highest requirements out of all of them, and you need 85 crafting to make, although most of the others have very low crafting requirements. The method currently makes you 1.3 million GP per hour, but each clockwork only gives you 15 XP, so you're only getting 10,000 XP per hour. So I'd say, my personal opinion, it's worth sacrificing some of the GP on this one and making drift nets instead. These have been decent money now for quite a long time and only require level 26 crafting. All you need for it is some dew fibers and access to a loom. And the best place to do that currently is Fossil Island, as it's the one that's closest to a bank. And as an added bonus, this method is quite relaxed to do. Now it is just under half the money that you get from making clockwork toys, and it makes you 600,000 per hour, but you do get 60,000 crafting XP, which is 6 times more. There's not many ways to make money in firemaking at all, but there is one good one, and it has no level requirements. Making any type of pile log can be done at just level 1, and always check which one is the most profitable on the wiki, but bear in mind that a lot more redwoods are bought and sold on the GE each day than any other type, since those logs are the most profitable for other players that are actually using them. Now you do need to have completed the Shades of Morton quest, but on World 377 there's usually a number of players doing this, which makes it very simple to do even at a low level. Making the actual pile logs themselves is really simple, and all you do is you use sacred oil on any log and it has no delay at all, so you can make them as fast as you can click. Realistically, with banking you can make at least 3,000 of these per hour, which is currently 2 million GP profit, and every one of them gives you 20 XP, so you'll also be getting 60,000 XP too. Jageix's recent banning of tons of bots have resulted in a new top fishing moneymaker, and that is catching sacred eels. For this though, you need 87 fishing as well as 72 cooking, and to have completed the Regicide quest. What's happening is because there's a lot less Zulrah bots now, the price of drops have gone up in price, and that includes basic items like the scales, which you can also get by fishing here right next to where you kill Zulrah. Not only is this the best method currently at 422,000 GP per hour by catching them and simply using a knife to get the scales, but it's pretty AFK and you get cooking XP from cutting the eels too. The XP isn't amazing, but fishing in general is one of the slower skills to level, and the 20,000 XP per hour is at least competitive with other methods. Fletching is one of the first 99s that a lot of players go for, because you can simply buy different types of logs on the GE really quickly, cut them into bows and sell them for a small profit of typically a few 100,000 GP per hour. The XP is pretty decent too, and it sets you up with enough GP to start other skills. But there is a more profitable way to train it, although this does require you to have at least a few million spare GP in the first place. Attaching diamond bolt tips to adamant bolts requires level 65 fletching and will give you a very nice 189,000 XP per hour, one of the highest rates of XP in this guide, while still making you a very nice 460,000 GP per hour too. The downside though is that 1 hour of this method will cost you 4.7 million GP in supplies, and if you can't afford to put offers in for large amounts to buy over time, it really slows down the method and you end up spending a lot of time constantly putting in new offers into the GE and then waiting for your bolts to sell to get enough GP back to reinvest it. With Mixology came the new best Herblore moneymaker, and we're not sure how long this one's going to last. Mixology requires you to have at least 60 Herblore and is different to the usual Herblore training methods. You put herbs into a refiner, and depending on what herb it is, it will then give you one of 3 types of paste. You put them into the hopper and then you make one of the potions that you're asked to make in the top left corner of your screen. Making these and putting them into the conveyor belt gives you points, and with this you can purchase an item called Aldarium. Now this item is used in 2 very useful potions, so it's always going to have a lot of demand, but the more players that do this, the more the supply increase and the lower the money will be per hour, but currently it is 3 million GP. It also gives you around 50,000 XP per hour, which whilst it isn't terrible, is kinda bad compared to creating high level potions, which usually get you close to 300,000 XP per hour. The best mining method requires level 70 in all of these stats in order to complete the Song of the Elves quest, and only then can you kill Zolcano for 2.1 million GP per hour and gain 15,000 mining XP too. This skill and boss is extremely simple and you can join a dedicated world to do it in a group. To access the boss, you just head to the southeast of Prifddinas and into this cave here, and then go through the barrier, and the only requirement is a pickaxe and some decent food. If you don't have the levels for that though, you could also mine runite ore at level 85 mining in various locations, but it is one of the most botted things in the entire game, and it can be extremely frustrating hopping world only to find ore after ore depleted. If you do manage to find somewhere quiet, you can in theory make 700,000 GP per hour, but then the other problem is that the XP here is extremely low too. If you can't access Prifddinas, a more reliable method is gem rocks in Shiloh Village that require just level 40 mining. Whilst wearing an Amulet of Glory, you will mine these extremely quickly, and if you completed the medium Karambwans diary, you can also access the underground mine with a safety deposit box right by it for faster banking. Now it is a little bit less GP, making you 570,000 per hour, but it's far more XP. You get 60,000 here compared to only 8,000 at Rune Rocks. For prayer, sadly the one way that was always profitable to train prayer is no longer the case, because burning shade remains will now make you a small loss, even Urium, which is the top one possible. Runecrafting is really profitable, but it does have some of the highest requirements. The first thing you're going to need is the Raiment of the Eye set, and to get that, you're going to need to do the Guardians of the Rift minigame, with the whole set taking an average of 180 games, each of which being about 10 minutes long. That is around 30 hours just for that part. However, you are gaining XP and making money whilst doing the minigame, and that set makes almost every runecrafting method far more profitable, so it's well worth getting at some point anyway. The most profitable method is making Sunfire runes that get you 3.2 million GP per hour, using this set, plus Twisted Extract, which you can get from the Scar Essence mine, and to access that area you need to have completed Desert Treasure 2, and that quest has a ton of requirements and a long quest chain. Then, even after all of that, this method only works when you're level 98 runecrafting, as that is the level where you get triple runes here. But let's be real, very few people watching this guide have 98 runecrafting. In fact, the person making this guide doesn't even have that. And that's kind of the theme with all of these best runecrafting methods that are all over 2.5 million GP per hour. They all have extremely high requirements, so the best method that is achievable by a lot of players is simply crafting blood runes through the abyss, as this has a low requirement of 77 runecrafting, and you can do this to still make 1.7 million GP per hour, as well as picking up a reasonable 31,000 XP per hour at the same time. Slayer's good money, but there are a few things that you can do to make it even better. Firstly, spend your points on the bigger and badder reward, which will occasionally spawn a superior version of whatever creature that you're killing. Not only do these give a good chunk of XP when they die, but they can drop a few valuable items such as the Imbued Heart, which is currently worth 104 million GP. Depending on your ability, if you can kill most bosses in the game, they tend to be more profitable than a normal Slayer task, so unlocking like a boss will also increase the money that you make. Finally, and probably the most important one, is knowing which Slayer task you can kill certain bosses on instead of normal creatures, such as Cerberus instead of Hellhounds, Krill instead of Greater Demons, and so on. Not only are most of these bosses extremely profitable, but when you do it on a Slayer task, you can use your Slayer Helmet, which gives you a 16.67% bonus to your melee stats, as well as 15% to your magic and your range, and it stacks with a lot of other items as well. We are so intent on getting the best XP in Old School all of the time that a simple method like smelting rune or even addy bars at the Blast Furnace in Kelder Grim will make us 1.4 and 1.3 million GP per hour respectively, as well as getting us over 100,000 XP too. Now rune is pretty expensive, and 1 hour's worth of the rune ores and the coal that you're going to need to do the method will cost you 25 million GP. But if that is too expensive for you, Addy is much cheaper, only costing 3.6 million per hour, and it makes you almost as much GP and XP per hour, plus you only need level 70 smithing for Addy compared to level 80 for rune. With the blood shard just starting to fall in price, Thieving Elves is now slightly more profitable than Firewatch, well depending on what you do with the shards that you get. To access elves, you need to have completed the Song of the Elves quest, and that quest alone requires a ton of level 70s, as I mentioned earlier in various skills. Plus, you need to get yourself a rogue's outfit from the rogue's den in Berthorpe by completing the course there multiple times, as this is going to give you double the loot when you pickpocket. Plus, you need 85 thieving for the actual method itself. Thieving here can get you almost 200,000 XP per hour and make you over 4 million GP. But that is providing that you have the level 97 Herblore needed to make divine super combat potions with the crystal shards that you get as a reward. Otherwise, there really isn't that much difference at all between Vires and Elves currently, with Vars being 3.8 million GP per hour and actually slightly more XP at 220,000 per hour. With the release of forestry, that element of woodcutting is now far more profitable than you make from the actual logs, essentially meaning that as long as you're getting a lot of forestry events, you're making close to the maximum money possible. Typically, the logs and the leaves that you get make you anywhere from 50 to 200,000 GP, depending on the type of tree that you're cutting and your level, but the anima you get from the forestry events will make you over 500,000 per hour. So the most important thing is just to maximise the amount of events that you're going to get. And for that, of course, you want to be on one of the forestry worlds, and then depending on your woodcutting levels, either at the Willows in Draenor, which is a very popular spot and requires 30 woodcutting, the maples behind Sears Village Bank with 45 woodcutting, or the yews next to the church south of Sears once you have 60 plus woodcutting. For Hunter, the best method is 3 ticking black chins, and whilst this isn't the best money anymore, 1.3 million GP per hour, it's also the fastest way to train Hunter as an added bonus. Now, of course, it is in the wilderness, so you're going to have to be careful here, but there's a ton of trees around you, so if you bring a made setup, just a basic one like this, it's very easy just to freeze, hide behind a tree, and then hot worlds. The most profitable way to train farming is to do herbruns. Well, we call them herbruns, but actually now, there's so many different things that you can collect that make you money, such as white berries and Zamrock grapes, that a good herbrun actually includes a lot of other different things. Now, I done one a while back, which I'll link in the description, is a much longer run than usual and makes you a lot more profit. The downside though is you don't really get much XP from herbruns, but it'll more than pay for some tree saplings if you want to just reduce your profit a little bit and get more XP. Hopefully there's enough money makers in there for everyone to do whilst you're leveling up, but there's so many these days. If I've forgotten a better one, let me know and I'll pin it in the comments.